Hello everyone, this is Pablo from the C# Academy and welcome to Practical C# for Absolute Beginners. This course is part of the roadmap that can be found in the website thecacademy.com. We have an ever-growing extensive pathway that will take you from beginner to advanced in full-stack development with C# and front-end technologies like React, Angular, Blazor, and .NET MVC. This course is divided in two parts. In the first part, you're going to learn all the basics that you need to start writing your own programs, while at the same time building a mathematical game. In the second part, we're going to build the same game, but now in the form of a desktop application, which will have a nice user interface, and it's going to use the latest Microsoft technology for app development, .NET MAUI. This course differs from others because we learn everything with theory and practice. You will learn in the context of building a complete application that you can publish and anyone can use. That doesn't mean that theory isn't important, so I'm going to provide lots of links with things like history of C#, how computer programs work, how C# works under the hood, but for the most part, we're going to learn to code by writing programs. And I strongly recommend that you write notes. I find that you can retain much more knowledge if you write down things like lists of steps, bullet points with major concepts, and anything else you think is necessary, but keep it concise. Think of how useful they're going to be when you come back later and take a look at them. And in computer programming, we get stuck all of the time. That's part of the job. In fact, if you don't get stuck, you're probably doing it wrong. So when that happens, don't panic. C# is a language supported by a huge community, so you can find most solutions for C# problems online with a quick Google search, and that's something that even professional, experienced developers do all the time. In this course, I'm going to be using Visual Studio 2022 for Windows, but you can definitely use Visual Studio for Mac or Visual Studio Code, but just bear in mind that Visual Studio is optimized for C#, so it's just a little bit harder to use C# with Visual Studio Code. But again, that's totally up to you, and there are many professionals that use Visual Studio Code for .NET C#. You also want to have note-taking systems. It can be Word, Google Docs, Evernote, anything that you like. There are many solutions out there, and you can also find links in the show notes below to my favorite note-taking systems. And last but not least, a super important thing. You have to create your own library of code. And for that, you need a source control system, such as GitHub, which is the one that I use. And there are two main reasons for this. The first one is keeping your work safe. If you save your work every single day or multiple times a day, it's unlikely you're ever going to lose it because it will always be nicely stored in the cloud. So if something happens to your computer, you won't lose days, months, or even years of work. And the second reason is your library of code will serve as a reference for your future projects. You will always reuse code that you've written. And that's especially important because when learning computer programming, we're always building on top of previous knowledge. You can find all the source code for this project in the links below, and each link contains the code for that part of the project. So that means that you can always compare your code to mine at that specific stage, which makes it much easier to follow. But this is a practical course, so enough talking, let's get started.